Ladies and gentlemen, it is Thursday, the 13th day of July. The year is 2017. And if you can hear the sound of my voice, you are the revolution. I am Revolutionary Warrior number 1 General of the Save the World Army, Smokin' Joe McHale. And I would like to welcome you today, 305 of Operation Save the World. We are live from beautiful Sydney, Australia, and this is the Save the World Army live daily news, smashing through the lies of the Illuminati, smashing through the lies of the New World Order, and smashing through the lies of the government who are escalating their attacks against humanity every single day. But even though they are escalating their attacks against us, my brothers and sisters, don't you dare be sour. Join the Save the World Army and feel the power. Yes, 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 I have the power, you have the power, we have the power, humanity has the power, and we have to use that power, the power of love, to beat the Illuminati, to break the New World Order, to bring down the world government, and to save the world, because we know that the only way for humanity to be free is for us to bring down the government that is enslaving us. Thank you all so much for tuning in on this beautiful July afternoon. Revolutionary Sergeant 40, Sin City Jason, much love to you in Las Vegas. ZEA Zafet Larez, thank you for joining us, and Gnostic Warrior, and my brother Victor, thank you for tuning in. Revolutionary Warrior, I'm close to nature. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful July afternoon. Revolutionary Warrior 69, I'm close to nature. Thank you all for tuning in. And check it out, in Sydney today, they are spraying chemtrails once again. Yet you tell most people about these chemtrails, they look up and they say, those straight lines crisscrossing the sky, they're just clouds. But we know they're not clouds. We know they're spraying us with aluminium, barium, strontium, cadmium, titanium, nanotechnology, and who knows what else in an effort to kill as many people and make as many people as sick as possible. But we are here to expose their disgusting, diabolical, deleterious, demonic conduct for the world to see. And ZEA says, hey Joe, I'm the drummer from your sister's wedding. Bro, good to see you, and nice work, my man. And Mary, thank you for tuning in. And Ghost Who Walks, Revolutionary Sergeant 366, thank you for tuning in. He says, good afternoon, brother. Corporal Ghost Who Walks, Warrior 366, and Alec Z Rocks, thank you for joining us. Once again, here in Sydney, if you look up at the sky today, there are straight lines of all of these chemical formations in the sky. And that's the subject of our first article from globalresearch.ca. Chemtrails, the consequences of toxic metals and chemical aerosols on human health. Part 1 by Dr. Ilya Sandra Perlinghieri. Originally from the 7th of May 2010. This article by the late Dr. Ilya Perlinghieri was first published by Global Research in May 2010. And Alex said, hey there, brother, good to see you, bro. Ghost Who Walks says, at present, I am marching in Services New South Wales you're watching in Services New South Wales doing license renewal. Awesome. Much love to you. Much love to everybody else who might be tuned into this broadcast. For decades, we have known that heavy metals and chemicals can cause grave physical harm. Going back to Rachel Carson's Silent Spring, we have known and been amply warned of the serious consequences of using or being exposed to these poisons in our daily activities. Thousands of these are well-documented carcinogens. Ghost Who Walks says, been lined up like sheep, brother. I know how you feel. They have no right to make us get a license to drive or anything, but they will use violence against you if you don't have one of their ridiculous licenses. And Revolutionary Corporal 150 Mama Spike, good to see you. Building on Carson's groundbreaking research, we also know that certain kinds of chemicals can and do disrupt human and other animals' entire immune system. Going back 30 years, researchers were investigating what became known as endocrine or hormone disrupting chemicals and how they were affecting frogs, who sometimes had 5 legs or hermaphroditic characteristics, other aquatic animals and mammals. These animals were the proverbial canaries in the coal mine. In another pioneering book, Our Stolen Future, authors Dr. Theo Colburn, Diane Dubanovsky, and John Peterson Myers clearly demonstrate that 1 + 1 hormone-disrupting chemicals did not equal 2. Mama Spike says, how late am I? We have just started here today, 6 minutes into the broadcast. Revolutionary Warrior 508 Nikita, thank you for tuning in. She says, hey everyone, much love. Rather, in a nightmare of mathematical proportions, these poisons acted synergistically, and 1 + 1 could equal up to 1,600 times the original dose. We are also exposed to more than 100,000 chemicals regularly. Most of them have never been tested for human safety. So, almost nothing has been done to reduce human exposure to a myriad of hazardous chemicals. In fact, over the past decade, the Bush administration dismantled many environmental laws in existence for 30 years to let corporations off the proverbial hook. Just look what's unfolding in the Gulf with the BP oil spill. Although this information on the dangers of hormone disruption is now more widely available on internet sites, it is still not well known by the average person who gets news mostly from mainstream media. Most of these highly toxic chemicals are invisible and therefore are easily off our collective radar. With the high stress level created by the deliberately orchestrated financial crisis where millions have lost their jobs and homes, a degraded, collapsing environment or serious health problems are not priorities, especially if very little is reported in mainstream news. This disaster scenario is part of the larger picture of what Naomi Klein writes about in her book, The Shock Doctrine. We have so many major crises, one after another, that it is hard just to keep up with one's daily routine, let alone have time to read and consider the toxicological health ramifications of massive amounts of thousands of heavy metals and chemicals that have poisoned our entire food chain and, thus, our own supposed health. We are at the very top of this wrecked food chain. Now, however, there is another far more insidious layer of toxicity that is not being addressed at all in any mainstream corporate-controlled news, and it is affecting our very survival. It is, however, being addressed more and more by independent researchers who have supporting evidence to back up their internet reports. For more than a decade, first the United States and then Canada's citizens have been subjected to a 24/7, 365-day assault over our heads made of a toxic brew of poisonous heavy metals, chemicals, and other dangerous ingredients. None of this was reported by any mainstream media. The US Department of Defense, or DoD, and military have been systematically blanketing all our skies with what are known as chemtrails, also known as stratospheric aerosol engineering. These differ vastly from the usual plain contrails that evaporate rather quickly in the sky. Chemtrails do not dissipate. Rather, multiple planes are deployed, flying parallel or often checkerboard patterns overhead, and soon the sky is blanketed with many greyish-white lines, miles and miles long, although this is changing. At first, these lines are thin, but soon they expand and in a short time merge together. Our once blue sky has vanished and has been replaced by a greyish-white toxic haze that blots out and greatly diminishes our usual sunshine. And Nikita says chemtrails, and they're spraying them all over Sydney today. If you go outside and look up, I can see the remnants from my window here. What I'll do, I'll show you the remnants. How do I flip this camera? Well, that's a picture of the chemtrails on my screen. But let me see here. If you can see out the window, this is a live broadcast from Sydney, Australia. And you can see these wispy trails in the sky. And they're doing it every day. And they're spraying us with poison every single day. And I will not stand for it. And even though the average mindless, moronic, mental midget doesn't want to face up to the reality of what's going on, I'm going to continue to expose what's going on. And I thank you for your continued courage in exposing the horrendous attacks that we are facing every single day. My brothers and sisters, we will be victorious. And Ghost Who Walks says, good afternoon, Nikita, and afternoon, fellow warriors. And Nikita says, hey, Ghost Who Walks. Military and commercial planes are involved in more than 60 secret operations. Last year, when I flew across the country, I saw a United Airlines jet flying below us at about 37,000 feet, spraying a black aerosol that went for miles and miles across the sky. This clandestine program now includes aerosol spraying planes in North America, Europe, Australia, and New Zealand, all NATO countries. Hundreds, if not thousands of people have called and written their public officials to get answers. Replies from US and Canadian officials are not forthcoming. Or if they do reply, queries are dismissed. This remains an ongoing, deliberate cover-up. No one is held accountable while we continue to be poisoned daily. This is not the first time, however, that citizens are being used as experimental laboratory test subjects. The US government and its military have a very long and sordid history of using us without informed consent in this illegal manner. As Carol Pellet notes, the US military has been spraying chemical and biological weapons in open-air testing over civilian populations since the 1940s. They are called vulnerability tests. This is not a controversial statement. The military has admitted to this practice on many occasions, and there's plenty of documentation from the government to corroborate it. There is also documentation of intentional experimental releases of radiation on civilian populations. Unfortunately, this information tends to surface long after it could have saved lives or eased the suffering of victims. Over the past decade, independent testing of chemtrails around the country has shown a dangerous, extremely poisonous brew that includes barium nano-aluminium coated fiberglass, known as chaff, radioactive thorium, cadmium, chromium, nickel, desiccated blood, mold spores, yellow fungal mycotoxins, ethylene dibromide, and polymer fibers. Barium can be compared to the toxicity of arsenic. Barium is known adversely to affect the heart. Aluminium has a history of damaging brain function. Independent researchers and labs continue to show off the scale levels of these poisons. A few anonymous officials have acknowledged this ongoing aerosol spraying. Numerous tests have been done to verify that these poisons are off the scale in their toxicity. They are documented in our water, in our soil, and in our air. For more than 10 years, researcher Clifford Carnicom has been valiantly and systematically reporting on the various detrimental aspects of these aerosols and what they are doing to our entire environment as well as our blood. Various Skywatch groups have also been carefully documenting and diligently reporting about these daily assaults. With all these poisons surrounding our every breath, it's not surprising to see a dramatic increase in illnesses. There are numerous reports of the increase in cardiac deaths and upper respiratory illnesses, asthma, chronic bronchitis, lung cancer, and often multiple chronic illnesses. Chemtrails toxicity has already dramatically affected our deteriorating collective health. The significant increase in heart disease and various upper respiratory illnesses has been linked to a vast increase in particulate matter in our air. This can be seen by some revealing statistics. And Revolutionary Corporal 99 Warrior of God, good to see you. Thank you for tuning in. Number 1. Coronary heart disease is now the leading cause of death in the US. According to the CDC, in 2006, 631,636 people died from heart disease. That means 1 out of every 5 Americans are affected. And Warrior of God says, 99 here. It is good to see you. In Canada, every 7 minutes, someone dies of heart disease. Number 2, asthma and upper respiratory illnesses. Between 100 and 150 million people suffer from asthma worldwide. In the US, 16.4 million adults have asthma and 7 million children have it. Chronic bronchitis and emphysema. 9.8 million Americans were diagnosed with chronic bronchitis this past year. For emphysema, the figure is 3.8 million. Total, 37 million Americans afflicted. Nikita says, hey, Warrior of God. And Warrior of God said, this is disgusting. And she says, hey, Nikita, much love to you. In Canada, 2.4 million people have been diagnosed with asthma. Number 3, particulate matter in air pollution. Particulate matter, or PM, consists of tiny particles 10 microns or less. 1 micron is about 1/70th the thickness of a single human hair. These particles can lodge in the deepest part of your lungs, and over a period of time they can damage lung function. This kind of pollution that we breathe daily can and does cause various upper respiratory illnesses, coronary heart disease, and premature aging and death. Particulate matter can also exacerbate any existing illness. Unanswered questions. Does hazardous particulate matter act in synergistic ways in human bodies, as do endocrine disrupting chemicals? How does PM affect millions who already have multiple chronic illnesses? And Revolutionary Warrior 26, the Duchess, thank you for tuning in. Brain injury. Even with the rise in preventable illnesses, the issue that has not been linked or addressed with what Clifford Carnicom rightly calls aerosol crimes is the deterioration of cognitive function. Our immune system is already under siege daily, and this has resulted in millions, possibly billions, of people with not just one illness, but often multiple ones. The skin, the largest organ in our body, is a permeable membrane. This means that invisible toxins in our air, including chemtrails and other highly dangerous chemicals, go right into our skin. Poisoned rainwater or snow touching the skin does the same thing. When the air we breathe is filled with a dangerous assortment of toxins, with each breath we take, these poisons assault our entire immune system. Every step we take, every move we make, every breath we take, they're going to be watching us and poisoning us. But with every step we take, every move we make, every breath we take, we are fighting this evil system. With every fiber of our beings, we pledge our whole lives and all of our energy to throwing our bodies up against the machinery of this monstrous, maniacal, malevolent mob of murderers. And my brothers and sisters, we will be victorious. And the Duchess says, hey Joe, I'm watching you in my pool. Nice one. Get a bit of a tan. That is awesome. It's a bit of a sunny day in Sydney as well. It'd be nice to work on the tan. There are some chemtrails, but much love to you, Duchess. Aluminium is a major component in these aerosols. Although it is our planet's most abundant metal, our body has no biological need for it. Pesticide Action Network North America, or PANA, lists it as they list it as toxic to humans, including carcinogenicity, reproductive and developmental toxicity, neurotoxicity, and acute toxicity. Yet aluminium is commonly used, and this is a very short list, in vaccines, deodorants, and antiperspirants, over-the-counter medications, soft drink and beer cans, aluminium leaches from the cans, baking powder, cake mixes, processed cheeses, and other food products and additives. Over years, aluminium accumulates in the brain, tissues, and to a lesser amount, the bones. It causes brain degeneration, dysfunction, and damage due to the blockage and reduced blood flow and oxygen of brain arteries. The brain shrinks, the brain cells die. This causes dementia. Symptoms include emotional outbursts, paranoia, forgetfulness and memory loss, speech incoherence, irritability, diminished alertness, changes in personality, and poor judgment. All these are on the rise as more than 4 million Americans are afflicted. Brain deterioration and dementia take decades to cause serious and visible harm. Eventually, however, dementia is fatal. Alzheimer's is now being used incorrectly as a catch-all term for all kinds of dementia. Just a few days ago, the front page of the New York Times had a headline, "More with Dementia Wander from Home." People afflicted with what the Times terms Alzheimer's were interviewed. One person mentioned he has a diagnosis of Alzheimer's. This is patently wrong. Alzheimer's dementia can only be accurately diagnosed after death when a post-mortem can be done. However, heavy metals poisoning can be diagnosed through lab testing, but this is rarely done for basic checkups. What is not addressed in this increase in dementia is the more than 10 years of breathing chemtrails with nano-aluminium coated fiberglass. Billions of tons have been sprayed on us. With all these sources of aluminium added to the air we breathe with each breath, the cumulative toxicity is very high. Even in daily events, it is obvious to anyone who is paying attention that many people are behaving oddly. While it may be considered anecdotal reporting, there are millions of people whose behavior is strange. There have been numerous times in the past year when I have asked someone a question and received an answer that is totally unrelated. There have been more and more uncontrolled outbursts in public areas. Someone snaps for no apparent reason. Violence levels are up. Look at all the shootings on school campuses. There are more unexplained auto accidents that never should have happened. In just one day a few weeks ago, I witnessed 3 traffic accidents that need not have happened. The news is full of these stories. Add to this, already highly toxic body burden is the US military's use of aluminium in aerosols. It is used because of its electrical conductivity, durability, and lightweight. The US Air Force reported in 1997 that it released 2 million 6 to 7 ounce bundles of chaff. These are laid by military aircraft, form 15 to 50 miles in length. Another unanswered question, why is the US Air Force not releasing an up-to-date set of figures? Warrior of God said we need nostril filters, and you see these people walking around with hospital masks sometimes. I used to laugh at them and make fun of them when I was a child, but hey, they might be getting some escape from the chemtrails, but the only way we're going to escape this attack on our bodies and our minds and our spirits is to bring down the evil system that is attacking us, and we will bring them down using peaceful measures. Will we succeed? Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. 100% guaranteed. Guaranteed. Dr. Hildegard Staninger reported last year that exposure to aerosol emissions of nanocomposite materials resulted in cholinesterase inhibition. The human body has 3 kinds of cholinesterase: for the brain, for plasma, manufactured by the liver, and red blood cells. Some pesticides and nerve gases, such as VX and organophosphate, inhibit cholinesterase. The chronic inhibition of this enzyme that normally circulates in red blood cells, caused by the spraying of these chemtrail aerosols for weather modification, but also used for mosquito and other insect eradication, causes chronic poisoning. This exposure causes severe neurological disorders, including paralysis in humans. I'm going to have a drink of fluoride-free water here. Much love to you, revolutionary warriors. Cheers to victory. In a groundbreaking 2003 online essay, Dr. Kay Kilburn asks, why is chemical brain injury ignored? His article lists 13 concealed factors that affect our willingness to believe that dangerous chemicals do affect the brain. They include, number 1, it's all in your head, meaning real symptoms are ignored by allopathic medicine. Number 2, resistance to vulnerability. Individuals and society collectively cannot believe the brain is at risk. 3, the acceptance of mind-altering prescription drugs such as Paxil that can and do affect the brain. Millions are on antidepressants. What long-term damage does that also do to cognitive thinking? Does a whole lot. Nikita says, it is so sad how this world has become. We are so much more than working ants. We are more than ants. We are more than insects to be sprayed by these demons. I'll tell you what, we are righteous. We are good. We are kind. We are courageous people. And we have to use all of those attributes to bring down this evil system. And I'll tell you what, we are going to do it. We are doing it right here, right now. Resistance is victory. And Warrior of God said some years back, studies showed that drinking beverages from aluminium cans causes Alzheimer's. That makes perfect sense because, like it said in the article before, aluminium leaches from these cans, and it's all by design to make people stupid, to make them weak, to make them too retarded to fight back. And Warrior of God agrees with me. Number 4, chemical brain injury is considered not to be an imminent threat. Number 5, competition from other serious threats causing indifference or denial. Number 6, delay in acknowledging health risks. Number 7, economic interests. Delaying tactics by big corporations are well known. Delay continues profits and ignores taking responsibility. We are all expendable for corporate profits. 8, the field of neurology has been slow to consider causes. How many independent researchers are left who do not have any ties to the pharmaceutical and chemical companies? Well, a lot of them are getting killed these days. In all these valuable reasons for not addressing this human crisis, the one that Dr. Kilburn has not addressed directly is the chronic assault of breathing, absorbing these now billions of tons of hazardous aerosolized chemicals and heavy metals over more than a decade without our informed consent. And because of these stinking chemtrails, I feel like I got a frog in my throat as well. Cheers again to victory. We will not be stopped. We will not be controlled. We will be victorious, my brothers and sisters. It just makes me angry, you know what I mean? I'm looking out the sky now and I can see these trails all over the place, and I know they're poisoning everybody. I know they're poisoning my brothers and sisters, and these scumbags pretend to be the good guys, pretend to be the caretakers of humanity. These ghouls in the government are going down. The time of evil is gone. Their time is up. Our time is now. Warrior of God said, yes, I do, and these are not natural substances to the human body. You're exactly right. When one does not look for or address primary causes, then other issues can be blamed. This, on top of a government's silence or refusal to respond and the corporate media's complicity, make for an extremely dangerous combination that puts us all at grave and daily risk. As brain function is diminished and other things are blamed for it, any population is easier to control. Dr. Kilburn's research clearly shows that chemicals do affect and seriously harm the brain and thereby cognitive function. Chemicals, especially a daily onslaught of toxic chemicals over many years, can damage our ability to think clearly. Even if we find this hard to believe, the evidence is there. And now you got to excuse me, one time it's spelt Dr. Kiburn, the other time it's spelt Dr. Kilburn. Dr. Kilburn has expanded this essay into the first book to research this, Chemical Brain Injury, published in 1998. Dr. Kilburn notes, the brain's preservation represents the only possibility of survival for mankind. And that's an excellent point. If they destroy all our brains with these poisons and make everybody too stupid to know what's going on, if we're living in an idiocracy type world, and in many ways we already are, how are people going to fight back? They're going to be too stupid, too distracted. Those of us who still have 2 eyes to see, 2 ears to hear, and 2 brain cells to rub together have to use all of our power while we still can to use whatever peaceful methods we have at our disposal to save the world from the evil force that is the government and the shadow government. Warrior of God said, Peach and Bowser there, Joseph. Yes, they are. Took them for a walk earlier on. Nikita says, yes, they are. Warrior of God said, I missed them. They are still going strong. Once again, the brain's preservation represents the only possibility of survival for mankind. To find in many parts of the country and in many individual patients that its function is eroded seriously by chemicals that have been introduced into the environment basically in the last 50 years, is bad news indeed. It seems almost unbelievable that millions or billions of people could look up at the sky and not notice the dramatic changes that have occurred from what it was, for instance, in the mid-1990s. Then our sky was a gorgeous, deep blue. Clouds were a beautiful assortment of shapes. The sun was glorious. But people under 30 may not have a real sense of recollection about looking up every day and seeing this panoramic magnificence. Most of them are too busy texting or chatting on their cell phones. There are other issues to consider as well. People are in their own comfort zones, and denial is a very powerful human emotion. In the hustle and bustle, now quite out of hand for reflective time, how many people look up at the sky? It also takes huge courage, a very deep internal willingness to examine politically motivated, corporate-controlled media spin and search for the real answers. Humans like their regular routines. To re-examine what we think we know based on new evidence takes a willingness to think outside the proverbial box, to want to find out the truth, not the pervasive Orwellian doublespeak that pervades our society. If everything in our daily routine belies what is truly going on, it requires fortitude to explore the unknown, to question the litany, and I know that we have the fortitude to defeat this evil system. Warrior of God said, I refused menopause, I shall refuse poisoning. She said, it's fascinating and the numbness is abound. Yes, there are so many limp-wristed, lounge-locked lab rats that just love to lick the loafers of their Luciferian lords, but we will overcome, my brothers and sisters. Another courageous person is Dr. R. Michael Castle, who continues to address the chemtrails toxicity issue. He is a noted polymer chemist who has been interviewed frequently and has written articles about the extreme hazards of chemtrails. Dr. Castle has also written a groundbreaking document, the Universal Atmospheric Preservation Act, or UAPA. This document has been in Congress since 2008, but is tied up in committee. The only way to have this vital piece of legislation passed is to have real congressional representatives actually representing us instead of the corporate lobbyists. Once again, I don't think any amount of lobbying or changing any laws is going to stop this. We have to bring down this evil system that is poisoning humanity on every level. And we shall do it. We are doing it right now. And cheers once again to victory while I have a drink of fluoride-free water. And in the comments section, what I will do, I will put a link to the brand new Save the World Army store at the savetheworldarmy.threadless.com. And as you can see, I am sporting the brand new Save the World Army hoodie. Got this and another one yesterday. So thank you for your support. Also, please head to www.thesavetheworld.army. That's the brand new revolutionary social media network that I created. I've been banned from Facebook. Who knows how long we'll be on Instagram. We have to diversify our communications. Also, check out and subscribe to our YouTube at youtube.com/c/the Save the World Army, and Twitter at twitter.com/Save World Army. Thank you for all of your support. We are smashing through the censorship. Warrior of God says, me either. Cheers. Right on. I love it. Much love to you. Given these issues, since our collapsing society has so many different levels of deceit, the financial debacle, the lies and deceit of government and the Federal Reserve, blaming people for the housing mortgage nightmare, the emerging police state, the disasters that envelop our fragile environment, it becomes increasingly difficult just to maintain a daily routine and survive the economic depression and its daily fallout. Mainstream media does its supporting role and deceives us. Millions, like the proverbial lemmings, hasten to join the group demise. There are countless historical instances of this collective insanity. We, Homo sapiens, wise men, have never learned the lessons of 5,000 years of history. This is because each new generation of corrupt political leaders, often tied historically to previous ones, never has the real interest of their constituents as a basic part of their political practice. Further, there is no precautionary principle in place. It's not the way the political game of deception works. Precaution is not part of an equation that is broken from the beginning. Humans are gullible and want to believe the Orwellian deceptions. To add to this already heavy burden, to ask uninformed, although supposedly well-educated, what does that actually mean, given that much of our higher education has omitted much of what Professor Peter Dale Scott calls deep political events that never get into our history books? People to reconsider what they think they know about what is really going on. This takes enormous internal strength. It requires profound courage. The basis of this courage actually means creating new synaptical pathways in the brain. Without them, we feel scared, nervous, because those new synapses have not yet been created. It takes repeated effort and thus an emerging sense of ease to create these new synapses. If, however, millions of people are already on prescription pharmaceuticals to calm them down, long term, what is this doing to their ability to think clearly? And, in addition, are breathing poisoned air rife with mind-distorting chemicals, then how clearly, if at all, is anyone able to think? How can anyone feel well and safe if the very air we breathe is deliberately poisoned and is affecting our ability to think cogently? It is already evident that no one in any official capacity is willing to tell the truth. It is like Diogenes, the ancient Greek, searching for a truthful individual. I think, is Diogenes the philosopher who lived in a barrel? I'm just going to look this up. I think Diogenes was the guy who lived in a barrel. Diogenes barrel. Yeah. So this guy lived in a barrel and rolled his barrel from place to place. And then all these images of him in the wine barrel. Regardless, a little bit of history. It's like Diogenes, the ancient Greek, searching for a truthful individual. No one seems to have the desire or courage or authority to stop this massive poisoning because it is the secret plan of the elite insiders to deliberately destroy everything we once knew. Warrior of God says, very gullible, yes. Poor to no judgment, wow. Nikita says, it's life in the fast lane. I'd much rather just chill out on a farm. Me too. I'd love to find a farm. I'd love to find an island somewhere in some country where they don't spray these chemtrails. I really should look up some country where they don't have these stinking chemtrails because honestly, we have to fight this system. And I feel like I should stay here in Sydney and I should stay here in Australia. But these chemical assaults every single day, it'd be so much better to get clean water and clean air. But regardless, we all need to explore all of our options. Our basic human rights, constitutional and international laws are mere paper. These rights and laws have been torn asunder by those in charge. It has been done by stealth. We must organize peacefully. Peacefully is the operative word. Every single day I come on here and I say that we must be peaceful. All the government does is use violence. They want to use violence against us. They want to trick us into becoming violent, but we must be stronger than that. We must be smarter than that. We must use peaceful methods. That's the only way for us to set ourselves free. The power of peace will prevail. The power of truth will triumph. And the power of love will lead us to victory. And Warrior of God says, me too. And she says, Curacao. Is Curacao some type of liqueur? I'm not entirely sure. Or is Curacao a place? Let me see here. Just remembered that I didn't have my revolutionary tags on. I took them off for jiu-jitsu last night. There we go. Warrior of God says they don't play fairly though when it comes to peace. You're exactly right, but they want us to commit violence so they can lock us up, so they can kill us. Man, we're getting locked up and beaten up even when we're peaceful. We don't stand a chance if we use violence. That's the thing. We have to be peaceful. And more than that, we have to have the moral high ground. We have to do the right thing. Because what we do will go down in history, my brothers and sisters. Our victory will go down in history. If these many-pronged aerosol attacks by military and commercial planes can spray these horrific toxins on us year after year with impunity against all laws, then it is absolutely imperative that we organize peacefully. As Peter Dale Scott notes in Jason Bermas' new DVD, Invisible Empire, we must use the internet and our peaceful intellectual powers to come together and shut this nightmare down. It is possible to do this. It is possible. It is probable. It is happening right now. Warrior of God says we're kind of screwed either way. I feel like that sometimes, but we can't allow those thoughts to overtake us. We must be positive. We must be positive. We must be positive. That is how we will be victorious. More of a chemical assault. This is insane. From naturalnews.com. From the Pope. Gluten-free bread won't bring you closer to Jesus, but GMOs will. Oh my goodness. July 12, 2017. As a prodigal son who has fallen away from the flock, I cannot help but look back on my 12 years of Catholic schooling with a wry smile and a mocking wink whenever the idiosyncrasies of Roman Catholic liturgy make their way into the news. Article by Joey Clark from theantimedia.org. Now, let me be clear. I am not referring to the scandalous news that Vatican police recently raided a drug-fueled gay orgy of epic proportions at a top priest's apartment. Such orgies are hardly liturgical, though I can't help but wonder if introducing drugs and sex as a regular feature of the liturgy of the word would increase attendance at Mass while putting a dent in proverbial Catholic guilt and repression. I would never wish to highlight or make light of such embarrassments. No, what came out of the Vatican this week was much less scandalous, though it was possibly bad news for the ladies' bloated bellies. Pope Francis has seen fit to decree that the body of Christ need not evolve in the face of a popular health craze, sending a stern message to clergy everywhere that gluten-free host wafers are verboten in the eyes of the one holy Catholic and Apostolic Church for the practice of the Eucharist. And we all know that gluten is extremely bad for you. It kills your brain cells, destroys your gut, causes so many diseases. So they're saying it's forbidden to have gluten-free for their ridiculous blood-drinking ritual. Warrior of God said, ick. Nikita said, I've said for so many years now that we were meant for more than this, but money and greed changed our whole lives. I know what you mean. We have to look past the materialism that surrounds us. Warrior of God says that is demonic, and she said these men do not know Jesus. According to the Vicar of Christ, hosts or wafers that are completely gluten-free are invalid matter for the celebration of the Eucharist. Low gluten hosts, particularly gluten-free, are valid matter provided they contain a sufficient amount of gluten to obtain the confection of bread without the addition of foreign materials and without the use of procedures that would alter the nature of bread. However, despite the concern with not altering the nature of bread, the Church makes an exception for GMOs, saying Eucharistic matter made with genetically modified organisms can be considered valid matter. These putrid pedophiles wouldn't know a piece of bread. I'm not going to finish that sentence. So let me get this straight. Gluten-free bread is bad, but GMOs are just fine. Apparently, the doctrine of transubstantiation does require certain natural component parts for the substance or essence of the bread and wine to be transformed into the body and blood of Christ. Certain beliefs such as this, it seems, are allowed to be both meticulous and mysterious, to be regulated by strict man-made guidelines, all while hinging on enormous and suspect leaps of faith. And Ghost Who Walks is back. Woo! Mama Spike said, I don't get it. We've been eating bread with gluten for 5,000 years. The last 20 years we're allergic to gluten. No, the bread from 5,000 years ago is way different to the bread these days, apparently. And there's so much more gluten in the bread these days. I read this book all about it called Brain Grain or Grain Brain, one of those two, by Dr. David Perlmutter, explaining about how terrible gluten is and how there's so much more in bread and everything else these days. So check out that book if you can. Do your own research. Gluten is very bad for you. Warrior of God said, my God-loving granny never trusted the Catholic Church. I wouldn't trust them as far as I could hip-throw them. Ghost Who Walks says, do you use drugs regular is one of the stupid questions, brother. Yes, 24/7. I put brother. Weed is a medicine. It's a great thing. I wouldn't consider it a drug in some ways. In all fairness to the Roman Catholic Church, I suppose many of the world's most powerful institutions operate in this manner, be they churches, states, or major corporations. Hell, even run-of-the-mill superstitions operate in this fashion. That is, in order to keep a given tradition alive, say the divine right of kings or mass liberal democracy or the secrets of Scientology, refrain from questioning the tradition's shaky, poetic foundations while heaping mountains of red tape and regulations onto the tradition to provide the appearance of something important and factual. How ironic to see the doctrine of transubstantiation, which tells us to forget the truth of our eyes and the appearance of bread to see the deeper essence of Christ, now being subjected to the doctrine of keeping up appearances. So do tell, Pope Francis, if natural, unleavened bread can be transformed into the body of Christ while still looking like unleavened bread, why not gluten-free unleavened bread? I'm not suggesting we put yeast in our heavenly host, goodness no, but I must ask, does Jesus have some sort of hang-up when it comes to a new age nutrition, or does the gluten act as a sort of mystical catalyst to allow Christ to be one with the bread? Excuse me, pardon me, but is this latest version of counting the number of angels who can dance on the head of a pin? Warrior of God said, it is a plant, drugs are man-made, period. I agree with you 100%. Ghost Who Walks says, I know, but it's one of the questions they ask when one renews their license. Here, lol. Oh yeah, I didn't know that's what you were talking about. Bro, glad to see that you got it anyway. Revolutionary warriors, it's crazy what they're doing to us every single day. It's crazy, and more than us. You know, we're lucky in many ways. We have homes, we have food, we have water, even though it has fluoride, we've got to filter it. So many people are being destroyed, raped, killed by this evil system. And I'm not going to rest until we bring this evil system down. Thank you all so much for all of your support. Warrior of God said they form religion into what they want. Yes, exactly right. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you so much for all of the hard work you do to save the world every single day. This video will stay on Instagram for the next 24 hours. After that, it'll be on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/c/the Save the World Army. Thank you for subscribing there. Also, thank you for following us on Twitter at twitter.com/SaveWorldArmy. Also, please head over to www.thesavetheworld.army. That's the brand new social media site I created after being banned from Facebook. Warrior of God said, always... Ooh. Excuse me. Bumped the table there. Ghost Who Walks says, always brother. Warrior of God says, love. Nikita said, it is crazy. It's actually terrible. But hey, it's a crazy ride. We got to ride this all the way through because it's very interesting. And even though it can be off-putting and you can feel down sometimes, man, look out the window. They're just spraying us with all these poisons and most of the idiots out there don't even care. But we must stay strong because we have each other. That's why I'm building the Save the World Army, because we have to stand together to bring this evil system down. Warrior of God said, thank you, love you, much love to you. Nikita said, much love. And Ghost Who Walks says, I am the driver MacGyver. We are the ones who are saving the world. He said, much love, warriors, we can't be beaten. Nikita said, take care, everyone, much love. Brothers and sisters, if you want to get a hoodie or t-shirt or whatever you want from the SaveTheWorldArmy.threadless.com, thank you all so much for your support. Warrior of God said, bucking Bronco. Woo! Brothers and sisters, I am Revolutionary Warrior #1, General of the Save the World Army, and together we are beating the Illuminati, breaking the New World Order, bringing down the world government, and saving the world from evil. Ghost Who Walks says, we all have hero with warriors. Yes, we are all the heroes. Nikita said, positive, positive, we will be victorious. Yes, you know it. The revolution is here, and we will be victorious. Woo! Yeah!